Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins in medieval Germany with a mother Adriana and her husband being forced to abandon their children. The siblings Hansel and Gretel are left by their father in the forest where they wait for him to return before growing hungry and wandering off. They stumble across a gingerbread house that the pair begin to eat when the doors swing open and the two are greeted inside by the candy witch. She locks Hansel in a cage and forces him to eat sweets to fatten him up while Gretel's made to prepare the oven for cooking him. Before the witch can throw him inside, Gretel uses a nail to unlock her shackles and picks up a small knife to defend herself. The witch's magic has no effect on the orphans, allowing Gretel to shank the witch and cut her brother's bonds. He knocks the candy hag into the oven and the pair work together to close it, cooking her alive and making the orphans a household name. Over the years, the siblings become bounty hunters dedicated to exterminating witches with their shotgun and double-barreled crossbow with attached winch. However, Hansel's now a diabetic after being force-fed the candy as a child and needs to take a regular shot of insulin every day. Under the command of Sheriff Berringe, the townspeople of Augsburg prepare to burn the young lady Mina, accusing her of witchcraft. Mayor Engleman wants evidence to support the accusations, but the sheriff's gonna burn Mina anyway until Gretel shows up and prevents him. Her brother releases the girl and informs the public that the siblings have killed over 600 witches, but they always have some form of visual decay. The hunters have been hired by the mayor to find the town's missing children who've been abducted by a witch living on the edge of town. Gretel enters the cottage intending to capture the tall witch for interrogation, but she takes off on her broomstick through the side of the building. She's knocked off by a waiting Hansel, and without her vehicle he chases her through the forest on foot with her spells deflecting off him. He shoots his way through further magic until Gretel cuts the tall witch off, allowing Hansel to catch up. They capture the witch and string her up for another successful hunt, but still haven't found the children. Once in town, the siblings are introduced to the mayor's assistant Janssen, who knows the forest like the back of his hand, but the hunters refuse to go out at night. With papers from the witch's cabin, they discover that they're preparing for a ritual called the Feast of the Blood Moon, which requires sacrificing 12 children for each month of the year. At the same time, the sheriff hires 4 men for the same mission, hoping to regain some respect after Gretel took that away from him when they met. He promises them 100 shillings for every child they rescue, so the party foolishly go out at night unaware of the dangers. They come across the powerful Grand Witch Muriel, who's disgusted at the trespassers and sets the trackers' own dogs on them. She then kills the rest and puts a curse called the Hunger for Crawling Things on the last member before sending him to where he came from. At the tavern, Hansel and Gretel are resting when they meet their biggest fan, Ben, and his scrapbook full of cuttings of all their triumphs. The surviving tracker walks in and warns them to stay out of Muriel's force before exploding all over the patrons. Meanwhile, the villain returns to her coven where the Horned Witch and Redhead have captured another child to add to the collection. They turn one of them into a potion that allows the witches to become immune to their biggest weakness, fire, but it wears off quickly. They need to continue gathering various ingredients for the ritual to create the stronger potion when the Horned Witch gets baited by the siblings into a trap. She fights back and attempts escaping through the trees on her broomstick, but gets knocked off by Hansel and begins to fight again. He prevents her escape on it a second time with a grappling hook when Janssen arrives to capture the witch with a primitive taser. In town, Hansel runs into Mina at the marketplace where she thanks him for saving her life, but he says that it's his sister's idea to save the innocent. He says he just likes killing witches to get revenge for what Mina calls the sugar sickness that sees Hansel take another shot. As the sheriff and Janssen wait outside, the witch hunters interrogate the captive to learn that Muriel only needs one final girl to complete their ritual. She's born on April, so the hunters discover the girl's identity, but Berringe refuses to cooperate with them in locating her. Muriel and the red-headed witch witness the torture of their third through her eyes and decide to abduct the final girl while the hunters are distracted. They attack the town from the sky, and the red-headed witch descends to kill the girl's mother with magic by forcing her eldest son to shoot her. She then delivers the girl to the witch's troll servant Edward to take back to their prison, but Hansel arrives. He's hit from the side by the witch, but when Hansel fights back, Edward just ignores Red's cries for help, seemingly unhappy about his employment. The Red Witch fights like an animal but is stabbed in the eyeball, sending her into spasms before she attempts to retreat on her broomstick. Hansel hitches a ride as she blindly flies him back towards their hideout until noticing him hanging on and kicking him off. Meanwhile, Gretel's guarding the prisoner with Janssen when Muriel arrives and attacks with lightning-fast speed, instantly knocking Janssen away. She doesn't kill Gretel as she has something she needs for the ritual, but tosses her through the wall of the tavern, leaving her unconscious. The Grand Witch then uses her magic on the reloading Janssen, forcing him to use the bullet on himself before releasing Horny. Muriel fails to collect the last ingredient as Gretel was saved and brought to safety by Ben, who hides her at his home until the morning. After getting cleaned up, Gretel learns that the boy aspires to be a witch hunter himself and has an article about the siblings' mother being sentenced for witchcraft. Berringer's formed an angry mob out front of the home who believe that the brother and sisters to blame for causing the attack and shoots the mayor dead. He takes the posse to the forest while Gretel's searching for her brother and ambush her with no intention of bringing her back alive. Elsewhere, Hansel's found stuck in a tree by Mina and is taken to a nearby healing spring to treat his wounds. While the brother's having the time of his life with the pretty lady, the sister's beaten within an inch of hers by the ugly men. Having overheard the commotion while out hunting, Edward has been watching the whole attack from the tree line, and when it goes a bit far he charges out to squash everybody. He blocks bullets with his arm and steps on Berringer like a bug before carrying the unconscious Gretel away to safety. He brings her to a waterfall connected to the spring where he treats her injuries, saying that trolls serve witches, before walking away. When night falls, Hansel comes across an abandoned cottage where he's tackled through the floorboards by his sister who thought he was another attacker. They reunite before realizing that they're standing in a witch's lair and discovering that it's located in the basement of their childhood home. Just then Muriel enters, deflecting their attacks to tell them the truth of their past and why they're both immune to her spells. She says that the siblings' mother was a white witch who betrayed her kind when she married the farmer and mothered children. On the night of a blood moon, Muriel wanted the heart of a white witch as the final ingredient to create the fire potion, but Adriana was too powerful. Instead, the Grand Witch decided to use the younger white witch Gretel, so her father left the children in the forest to hide them. But upon returning home, the villagers had burned Adriana at the stake. They then hung him alongside her, and Muriel was unable to locate the young witch, allowing the blood moon to pass and the ritual to fail. When her story finishes, Hansel lashes out with a knife, but the witch stabs him a few times and abducts Gretel to sacrifice her. The brother wakes up to the sight of Mina, who has completely healed his wounds and reveals herself to be a good witch like his sister. She's able to enchant weapons to assist in killing the witches, so she blesses the siblings' arsenal and joins Hansel in stopping the ritual. Young Ben also joins them but waits at the bottom of a mountain equipped with a rifle while Mina takes Hansel to the top where dozens of witches gather round. Gretel's kept alongside the children with Edward made to watch them, and when the feast of the blood moon commences they're paraded out to be sacrificed. Hansel leaves Mina armed with a Gatling gun on a cliff overlooking the ritual while he travels down himself to face Muriel's minions. When the redhead approaches, the enchanted shotgun takes her head off immediately and Mina opens fire, sending the witches into a frenzy. Some attempt to flee by broomstick while the horned witch is sent to sacrifice the children as a last attempt by Muriel to finish the ritual. She's about to turn one into a potion like the boy at the beginning, but Hansel shows up just in time and turns her head into soup. Muriel goes for the white witch, but she's saved by Edward, who knocks his master away and unlocks Gretel's shackles. The Grand Witch recovers, knocking the troll off the side of the cliff, and the sister fights her all alone while Hansel deals with a few random attackers. He eventually starts fighting a conjoined twin that gives him the most trouble while Gretel holds off Muriel long enough that the sun rises. With the blood moon over, the Grand Witch flees on her broom to wait until she can attempt the failed ritual another time, but runs into bloody wires laid out in a trap by the siblings. All of the other witches who escaped were eviscerated by the piano wires, so Muriel goes around but gets shot off her broom by Ben. The final witches at the Sabbath are killed by Gretel's crossbow and a bladed whip that makes this single appearance in the whole film. Hansel rushes to meet up with Ben and search for the Grand Witch while Gretel finds an unconscious Edward and uses her taser to shock him back to life. Hansel, Mina and Ben follow Muriel's trail to the old gingerbread house, and when the witch takes Ben hostage, the hunter just shoots through his shoulder. Not capable of harming Hansel with his mother's protection spell, she's still able to defeat him by throwing objects, but he's saved by Mina. She casts magic for the first time in the movie but is easily defeated by the more experienced caster and gets fatally stabbed by Muriel's wand. She dies in Hansel's arms as he swears to kill the witch that he fights inside the gingerbread house before being joined by his sister. They engage in a grueling fight that leaves all three bloodied, and as Gretel's tossed to a side, it allows Hansel to lynch Muriel in her distraction. Just as she's about to pass out, suddenly Hansel's insulin levels get low and he collapses to the ground, needing a shot. Gretel's able to crawl over and administer it just as the witch breaks free from the chain and leaps at them, but they avoid her attack. Hansel then gets on top of Muriel, beheading her with a shovel before tossing the skull into the fireplace just to be sure. Ben recovers from his gunshot and they take the witch's bloody wand before returning to collect their reward for rescuing the children. The final scene shows the siblings embark on their next witch hunt, accompanied by Ben and the very handy Edward. Upon reaching a witch's residence, the troll punches the door down and Gretel opens fire on the lizard-like woman. She attempts to flee out the window with super speed, but Hansel's waiting there to smack her one in the face. And the movie ends.